Today's Chiefs are unstoppable. Mahomes launching missiles, Kelsey breaking ankles, Andy Reid drawing plays like he's got cheat codes. But rewind to 2012, and Kansas City was not just bad. They were historically, painfully, almost comically terrible. Chiefs' kingdom wasn't painted red, it was drowning in tears. Let's relive the carnage on why 2012 is the worst season in Chiefs history. Heading into 2012, Chiefs fans weren't dreaming of Lombardi trophies, but they did have something rare: optimism. The year before, they'd finished 7-9, which in Chiefs speak at the time was practically a parade. Interim head coach Romeo Crennel had just shocked the NFL by handing Aaron Rodgers and the Packers their only regular season loss. Add in a roster that looked sneaky good on paper: Jamal Charles coming back from injury, Dwayne Bowe still catching passes, Tamba Hali terrorizing quarterbacks. And the move was, hey, we're not Super Bowl favorites, but maybe we're a playoff team. Yeah, about that, but hope is dangerous, because once the season started, that optimism didn't just die, it got blown to pieces. The 2012 Chiefs didn't just lose their first 2 games, they got steamrolled. Week 1, Atlanta Falcons came into Arrowhead and turned it into a scrimmage, winning 40-24. Week 2, the Buffalo Bills, yes, the Ryan Fitzpatrick Bills, dropped 35 points on them like it was practice. By the end of week 2, the Chiefs was 0-2 with a defense leaking points like a broken faucet, an offense that looked allergic to the end zone, and a fan base already reaching for the whiskey. But hey, things were about to get better, right? Well, sort of. They did manage to sneak in a win. The catch? It came against one of the worst teams in football. Week 3, New Orleans. The Saints were a mess thanks to Bountygate, Sean Payton's suspension, and a defense that couldn't stop a parked car.
We're working through in terms of how we're seeing things, and as a quarterback, you have to be an extension of the offensive coordinator when you're on the field. So it takes a little bit of time, but I think we're getting to a pretty good spot.
Bill Belichick, going up against him, what are some of the challenges that you face, and do you enjoy that?
The Chiefs managed to win, but it took overtime, a Jamal Charles 91-yard sprint, and Drew Brees basically gift-wrapping the game. That was their big moment, their one shining light early on. Chiefs fans celebrated, but deep down, everyone knew this wasn't a playoff caliber team. And just in case anyone still had hope, the Chiefs went on to lose 9 straight after that. 9 straight losses. And just when you thought it couldn't get darker, real tragedy struck. Something that went far beyond football.
Tragedy in the NFL tonight.
Cowboys nose tackle Josh Brent was arrested early this morning and faces a charge of intoxication manslaughter.
Jovan Belcher was supposed to be taking the field today for the Chiefs. That is not going to happen, however. Police say Belcher killed his girlfriend on Saturday and then killed himself in front of his coach.
December 1st, 2012, a date that Chiefs fans will never forget, not because of football, but because of something far darker. Linebacker Jovan Belcher, just 25 years old, murdered his girlfriend, Cassandra Perkins, the mother of his 3-month-old daughter. Afterward, he drove to Arrowhead Stadium, confronted head coach Romeo Crennel, GM Scott Pioli, and linebackers coach Gary Gibbs in the parking lot, and took his own life in front of them. It was horrifying. One of the darkest days, not just in Chiefs history, but in NFL history. Suddenly, football felt microscopic. This wasn't about wins, losses, or draft picks anymore. It was about real lives, shattered families, and a team trying to process trauma no playbook could prepare them for. Players were grieving, coaches were shaken, and the entire city of Kansas City was in mourning. And yet, less than 24 hours later, the Chiefs still had to play a football game against the Carolina Panthers. Imagine trying to focus on a play call when your heart is broken, when your teammates are crying, when your coach literally just witnessed the unimaginable. Somehow, some way, the Chiefs pulled off a 27-21 win.
Having said that, I think he knows that he's dealing with a major problem. He's very upfront about it. They're now talking about eliminating kickoffs. I wouldn't be surprised.
You think that's going to happen?
Well, they think. Some people say the three-point stance.
Brady Quinn, yes, that Brady Quinn, gave a raw, emotional post-game speech saying,
You know, it's funny you asked that question because John Gruden, before a Monday night game, asked me that same question. He goes, do you think you guys can beat the Baltimore Ravens tomorrow? And in my head, I knew I could never say maybe what I was really thinking. But I knew every single game it was an uphill battle because there was dysfunction at every level.
when you ask someone how they're doing, do you really mean it? He urged people to check in on loved ones because you never know what battles they're fighting. That victory didn't feel like a win. It felt like survival. It was the Chiefs saying, we're still here, we're still standing, even if they were barely holding it together. And that's why the 2012 season.
It's a great feeling to have this kind of support from your fans. You know, it's a special moment anytime you're able to, go out, get a victory like this, and you're laughing.
Isn't remembered just for the 2-14 record. It's remembered for this tragedy, which put everything into perspective. After something that heavy, you might hope the Chiefs would find some rallying strength. But sadly, the rest of the season on the field was just as brutal as the start. Quarterback play, absolute nightmare. The Chiefs rolled out Matt Cassel and Brady Quinn like it was a bad sequel nobody asked for. Together, they threw 8 passing touchdowns the entire year. 8. For comparison, Aaron Rodgers threw 6 in a single game once. Their interception totals, higher than their touchdowns. Cassel's highlight of the year, getting booed by his own fans after a concussion. Kansas City wasn't just bad at quarterback. They were historically, painfully, laughably bad. And as bad as the quarterback situation was, the Chiefs still found a way to make history for how long it took them just to hold a lead. From week 1 through week 9, the Kansas City Chiefs didn't lead in regulation, not once. Imagine buying tickets, showing up to Arrowhead, tailgating, screaming your lungs out, and your team literally never takes the lead. For 8 straight games, Chiefs fans were watching 60-minute funeral processions. They finally led in week 10 against the Steelers and still lost. But even in a sea of despair, there was one man who gave Chiefs fans a reason to keep watching. Jamal Charles was the diamond in the dumpster fire. Coming off ACL surgery, he ran wild for over 1,700 scrimmage yards and 6 touchdowns. Week 3 against the Saints, he broke off that 91-yard run like he was escaping the entire season. The man was poetry in motion, surrounded by a cast of players who looked like they were running in mud. Chiefs fans clung to him like a lifeline because honestly, without Charles, this team might have gone 0-16. And here's the weirdest part. Despite the horror show, the Chiefs somehow had not 1, not 2, but 6 Pro Bowlers. Here's the head scratcher. The 2012 Chiefs were awful, but still sent 6 players to the Pro Bowl. Jamal Charles ran for nearly 1,500 yards. Derrick Johnson piled up 125 tackles. Tamba Hali kept terrorizing quarterbacks. Eric Berry bounced back from injury. Brandon Albert locked down left tackle, and Dustin Colquitt, the punter and probably the busiest man in Kansas City, kicked 83 times. On paper, that's talent. On the field, a disaster. It proved football isn't about stars, it's about structure, and the Chiefs had none. The roster looked like steak and lobster, but the coaching staff turned it into mystery meat, and that disconnect was the final nail in the coffin, leading straight to the house cleaning that reshaped the franchise.
Well, they were running a different system than I used. So the thing that I was concerned about is looking at the guys on tape to see.
By the time the dust settled on 2012, it was obvious the Chiefs weren't just a bad team. They were a franchise in free fall. And when you go 2-14, score the fewest points in the league, finish dead last in passing touchdowns, and spend more time trailing than leading, yeah, somebody's got to pay. The first head on the chopping block, Romeo Crennel. The players respected him, but he wasn't cut out to be a head coach. His defensive schemes looked outdated, his game management was painful, and by mid-season, He was literally juggling defensive coordinator duties and head coaching duties like a man trying to put out fires with a garden hose.
City Chiefs have confirmed that Scott Pioli, the same man who guided the New England Patriots to 4 Super Bowls in 8 years, is taking over.
Spoiler, it didn't work. He finished with a 2-14 record and was gone after just 1 year. Next up, GM Scott Pioli. Chiefs fans had turned on him long before the season even ended. This was the guy brought in from the Patriots dynasty tree, hailed as a front office genius, the architect who was supposed to modernize Kansas City. Instead, his drafts were spotty, his free agent moves were questionable, and the quarterback situation under his watch was a comedy show starring Matt Cassel. By 2012, Arrowhead fans were showing up with Fire Pioli banners, blacking out their jerseys in protest and booing so loudly it became national news. His firing was less of a surprise and more of a citywide celebration. Ownership knew they had no choice. The fans were furious. The locker room was broken, and the Chiefs weren't just bad, they were irrelevant. Clean house or lose the fan base forever. So they hit reset. Crennel, gone. Pioli, gone. Entire coaching staff, gone. It wasn't a rebuild, it was a demolition job. That house cleaning had to happen. Without wiping the slate clean, the Chiefs don't hire Andy Reid. They don't trade for Alex Smith. They don't lay the foundation that eventually brought Patrick Mahomes to Kansas City. The franchise had to torch the old blueprint and start from scratch. 2012 was the rock bottom that forced the Chiefs to reinvent themselves. It wasn't just the end of an era, it was the painful birth of a new one. And that leads us straight into the plot twist, because out of the rubble of 2012 came the spark that turned Kansas City into the dynasty we know today. Here's the plot twist. The disaster of 2012 opened the door for the Chiefs to hire Andy Reid in 2013. They traded for Alex Smith, stabilized the quarterback position, rebuilt the culture, and set the stage for Patrick Mahomes to eventually take over. Without the 2012 nightmare, there's no Reid, no Mahomes, no dynasty. Sometimes you've got to hit rock bottom to build the foundation for greatness. And for the Chiefs, 2012 was that rock bottom. So, Chiefs fans, where were you in 2012? Did you suffer through Castle to Quinn Sundays, or did you tap out early and pretend the season didn't exist? Drop your war stories in the comments, smash that like button if you survived the Romeo Crennel era, and don't forget to subscribe, because behind every dynasty is a disaster, and we're here to relive them all.